Hi friends, welcome back to Nurse's Nook and Corner. Come, let's make it easy today. If you didn't subscribe the channel, don't forget to subscribe and press the bell icon to get the uploaded videos. Today, in this video, you're going to look about Fast Hug with SPME Part 2. In Part 1, we have seen in detail regarding FAST, that is, feeding, analgesia, sedation, and thromboprophylaxis. Today, come let's see in Part 2 regarding the hugs. In Part 2, we are going to look about hugs, that is, head and elevation, ulcer prophylaxis, glycemic control, and spontaneous breathing. Let's see one by one in detail. First, let's discuss about head and elevation. Why we need head and elevation? The concept of head and elevation was introduced to prevent the incidence of aspiration and the development of pneumonias. The head end to be elevated about 30 to 45 degree. But the major setback of this is that it increases the chances of pressure ulcer in the sacral area in high risk patients. Head end elevation. If head end is not elevated between 30 to 45 degree, aspiration can happen with either oropharyngeal secretion or gastric contents or both. Neurological status, ability to maintain cough reflex, feed, and GI motility can all play a role in the incidence of aspiration. The response depends on the quantity, duration, and type of aspirate. So, the patient may be asymptomatic or can develop chemical pneumonitis or an infective pneumonia. So, most of the earlier studies have referred that it should be maintained elevation at about 45 degrees. Those who are at high risk for aspiration, and lesser degree can be considered as 30 degree in those with a lower risk of aspiration. Head end elevation is contraindicated for those who are hemodynamically unstable, those who have pelvic fracture and spine fracture. Second one, ulcer prophylaxis must needed as stress-related ulceration of upper gastrointestinal tract is known to be associated with critical illness. Clinical manifestation may vary from asymptomatic lesion to significant GI bleeding. The incidence is quoted at 4% in critically ill patients. Therapeutic option for ulcer prophylaxis includes nutrition therapy, optimal hemodynamics, H2 receptor antagonist, example ranitidine, proton pump inhibitors, example pantoprazole, rabeprazole, and antacids. And it is also known that high-risk population benefit from proton pump inhibitors compared to H2 receptor antagonist in reducing clinically significant and overt GI bleed, but no mortality benefit has been observed. Hence, for high-risk patients, it is proven that proton pump inhibitors can be given, and whereas for low-risk patients, ranitidine can be given, that is H2 receptor antagonist. Complication of ulcer prophylaxis therapy includes pneumonia, Clostridium difficile enterocolitis, interstitial nephritis, GI upset, and headaches. And long-term use associated with fractures, hypomagnesemia, and hypocalcemia. Therefore, to avoid complication, what to do? You must do daily assessment and review to look for possible adverse effects for the patients. The third one is glycemic control. Why it's important? Abnormalities in blood sugar level occur very frequently among the critically ill patients. So, they are most possible to develop both hyperglycemic and hypoglycemic, which leads to increased mortality rate and organ damage to the critically ill patients. Hyperglycemic in ICU is considered significant if blood glucose is more than 200 mg per deciliter. Hypoglycemia is severe when blood glucose is less than 40 to 50 mg per deciliter and moderate when less than 70 mg per deciliter. Therefore, the normal blood glucose ranges from 80 to 110 mg per deciliter. But for glycemic control, the present recommended goal is to maintain blood glucose level between 140 to 180 mg per deciliter in critically ill patients. How to manage the glycemic control? Short-acting IV insulin is the drug of choice for infusion during the initial phase. Once the disease severity is reduced and the glycemic control is better, one can switch to subcutaneous route. One should note that long-acting insulin and oral hypoglycemic agents are best avoided in critically ill patient, and it should be also noted that hypokalemia is the common occurrence with insulin infusion and care should be taken in providing potassium supplements. Today's last part is yes, that is spontaneous breathing. What to do? Several studies have proven the use of daily sedation interruption, also referred to as sedation holiday, in early weaning. Likewise, a daily spontaneous breathing trial, wherever appropriate, significantly cuts down the number of ventilator and ICU days. Therefore, combining a daily sedation interruption with a spontaneous breathing trial will be more effective strategy towards early liberation of patient from mechanical ventilator. In part 3, BITS-PME will be discussed in detail, that is bowel movement, indwelling catheter, de-escalation of drugs, sore pressure, positioning, morning care and eye care, to be continued in part 3. Thank you friends. Keep watching and supporting. If you didn't subscribe the channel, don't forget to subscribe the channel. Follow us in Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter as well as in YouTube. If you like the video, press the like icon and share it to your friends. Thank you.